Hi, Jeremy.
Marty,
What's
how's it
going
going? Oh, it's going great. I'm not, no, I mean, not really. I'm tired, overworked, but
on? I know what you mean.
how are you doing? Garage built yet?
What's that?
Garage built yet?
No, no. Just got approval.
I'm
Well, I
just
got,
gonna ask you every time I see you now
yeah,
until
no,
you give it
we
to.
marked out some stuff, but we're still actually waiting for the permit.
Okay.
So,
Very nice. Got some people coming. We're gonna play with some silly stuff today. I don't know. Jake, welcome again.
Nice to see you.
This is Marty. Jake, Marty. How's it
hi,
going?
Jake.
Hey, Marty. How you doing?
All right.
Good.
Surviving, I guess. I'm
That's
here
all we can ask for.
day by day.
I really, I really like the new iOS.
Dude,
I like that it does that.
look at the, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You
What's
got
it
it.
doing?
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
You got to
I
remove
mean,
those widgets in order for you to get that nice depth effect. But
Yes, you do. And I have another one where but, and that's kind of silly. It's like, no, I get it though. They're like, well, you want to see the widgets, don't you?
right.
I sort of understand that. I like this one too. This astronomy one.
Yep. Orlando, welcome.
Hi there, how's everyone?
Great.
You
How
weren't
are
here
you?
in the morning. Where were you in the morning? Working, I guess.
I was half tearing my hair out with some JavaScript stuff in FileMaker and half preparing for a client meeting, or a new client meeting. So both went well, so I'm happy today. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, JavaScript is really annoying sometimes.
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 Cool. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get started because why not? So I was playing around with and I Orlando, have you done anything with React? Have you used React at all? No? Okay.
No, not at all.
I know Jake has plenty of experience. Marty, have you played with React at all? No.
not at all.
So I'll start off by showing you something that I built, and I actually okay, here it is. Let me bring this up. I gotta reconfigure my screen. Too many things going on. All right, do that. Oops, do that. Oops, do that. Come on, dude. Hey, Christos. Nice to see
Hey,
you.
Jeremy, how's it going?
Oh, good. The usual. I always hate that question because I'm like, do I do fake things or do I actually say how things are really going? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
what's the proper way to be? Is to fake or to be real? So,
None of us are paying you money right now, so I think you can be as real as you want. That's usually where I draw the line.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's a good point.
Man, look at all that tailwind.
Yeah. So I was playing. I had someone. I think I mentioned this in a office hours recently, but I actually had a client interested in building a search piece of search functionality. Has to do with jewelry and such. So I was we're not going to go with a web viewer on this, but this is all web viewer based, and I was really interested in taking my knowledge of React, my knowledge of now Tailwind CSS, and trying to figure out how to build and forms. There's a whole form library out there, and putting it all together to make a nice UI search that will generate. It actually does it. It generates some CSS or some JavaScript, some JSON, that can be then, transferred to FileMaker to do the search. Oops, you can't see that, or it's very small. There you go. So this is what I was interested in, and I obviously got it working. And I realized in order to do this, I really needed to tap into React. Mainly because, well, the reason I tapped into React is because, and I would love to hear your thoughts, Jake, on what the purpose of React is. But as I understand it, it's a framework, it's a JavaScript library that helps you build user interfaces that can manage, like, one of its big features is to manage state and manage
that's exactly what I was going to say.
How data is portrayed at any given moment. It remembers data, right?
Yeah, DOM manipulation. So it's got the virtual DOM tree that it uses, and it's an easy way to update elements on your page based on logic or criteria or activity without having to reload the DOM tree. Which is great. It's very helpful.
As I understand, my index.html is pretty sparse. There's actually only one div in it. And what React does is, and actually JavaScript can do this too, but React will create elements and it will stick it into this div. And it will, the whole thing that you see on the left there is stuck inside of this root div, and React is taking care of that for me. So, some of the features of this, and this is what I've got here, this is what I built, is like I have a rings product selected, that's by default, but I can easily change this to necklaces. And in the middle there, I would get pictures of other, of specific kinds of necklaces. So I go back and forth. So I've got rings here. The React remembers, oh, hey, he selected rings. So I'm going to show all of the images where the type is a ring. And then when I type in these things and I press search, then this is the form library picking up and saying, all right, I'm going to construct an object here for you that shows everything that they've selected and stores all the values. So React is a lot of fun, but React it feels sometimes a little overkill for, I think, what we do. And I'm not quite sure. Christos, have you used React? I meant to ask you that when you came in. Have you used it?
Yeah, no, I've been playing around with it a little bit just to get familiar with it. I haven't built any applications in it before.
Okay.
I agree that it's a lot of work to set up for like one little thing.
Yeah.
Somebody in FM Slug had talked about an alternative library called Preact that I'm not familiar with, but said he used that a lot, including for even smaller widgets. I think for me, it came down to how much I needed to manage data caching.
Right.
So, for example, an area where I'm still considering React, though I haven't done any prototyping for this yet, is we've got an interactive virtual list with drag and drop. And it's a bit of a nightmare right now. It's got a lot of hide object calculations on it. The target areas are only half the row height because otherwise you can't click on any of the fields, and you can also edit the fields on there. And the whole thing just looks to me like it probably should be in a web viewer instead, where it can have much more web native fluency with the UX. But it's also big enough, and it deals with, you've got to cache the state of all the objects when you load it. You might have to selectively update objects as they get modified. And then you definitely have to update any objects that change when you close that window and you flush the whole thing. That really starts to sound more like an SPA to me, and I'm seriously considering React for that.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I'm currently working with like 4 different clients building web pages, and we're of course using React. It's just we're using Next.js actually and such, but it's it's vital for web apps. I don't know how to build. I'm not sure I know how to build a web app without React at this point. But for widgets, I wasn't sure about it. And, you know, most JavaScript libraries like data tables, we're all familiar with that. That actually kind of manages its own state somehow under the hood. It manages what page you selected, how many pages, how many items to show on a page. It manages a lot of stuff that I think React could handle if I were doing this from scratch. If I were building my own table, I could manage how many pages or how many records per page and such. But I never thought I needed it because I'm mostly using libraries. But this was built from scratch. I am using a React hook form, so I am using a form library to help me with that. But the rest
Any
of
chance
it
you can swap the windows, Jeremy? You just got the one you're active in is smaller on the screen share.
there you go. I'll make it bigger.
Cool, thanks.
How about that? So this is just because I had to manage what product they chose and what type of product, and then all the specific products. Because I had to deal with a form, I felt like working with React would do it. And I think it's successful. It actually works. It's low. I mean, I'm not even running this from over here. I'm running this locally. It's all,
Yeah,
it's
that's
all,
cool.
you know, inlined into it, right? So, and again, I was using my development environment. So I was one of my biggest tasks in this, I think, was to prove to myself, can I get React into my development environment? Can I get Tailwind CSS? And can I access a lot of the awesome libraries that are out there for React, like this React hook form that's allowing me to grab the data, and I could do validation and do all this stuff. So this is pretty cool. And obviously it works. It seems to be just perfect what I need. And so, I could build a widget for someone pretty nicely now using this. So I thought today might be interesting I'll show you a little bit about how that's done, what I had done. So React is one of the features of React, again, is that you're letting it build the interface for you from components. You're writing all of the JavaScript and the HTML that is necessary for this, but you're building it into a separate file, a separate component that then can be part of the main file. So this is, I really love this idea. So I built a little component. I know it's a component because it's got a capital S, or that's how I described it. I built it in a file called search, and that's where I have a function here, just a simple little function that has a lot of code in it. But the primary thing is that it's returning. The whole purpose of this function is to return some HTML. I think it's HTML. They call it JSX. Well, this is more JSX. Never mind. So I'm returning divs. I'm returning, everything. I'm returning all of the stuff that I need for the render to happen over here. So if you know a little bit about HTML, then you're pretty fine. All you're doing is you're just building a component that that returns something. So I could actually then go, and I actually have another component called main form. I like this. This is what I like about React, is that it allows me to create small components, little pieces of my code, and then bring it all in, right?
Yeah.
I'm interested in, Jeremy, in where you chose to draw the lines for your component files specifically.
Yeah, that's a good question. Jake, do you use lots of components when you're working with this?
Tons.
Yeah.
On the main goal of our projects when we are using React is the the, you know, sort of the file at the end of the tree. So like all the components that get loaded into the sort of master component should be like really very small. Like
Yeah.
most of our main components are no more than 30 or 40 lines of code. That's it. And
Okay.
and actually the reason I'm interested in React for FileMaker is because of that, because of components, because I'm obsessed. You know, my area of responsibility is design, can do a heck of a lot more in React than I can in FileMaker in terms of making things feel like a more modern web app from a user interface perspective. And I can do that really quickly in React.
Yep.
So that's why I was interested in this.
This is one of my in production files for a client. I've got probably 20 or so components here.
Yep.
One for each thing that so here's how I think of them. I like them as you alluded to the design thing. These are nice because people could take the copies of this repository and design a component that is completely away from the rest of the file,
right,
and make it part of this later at some later time.
Right.
You could have a template of components somewhere, at least styles and such, and you could easily stick it in here. You could actually import it in here from npm, and it becomes part of what you're doing.
Yep.
For me, go ahead, Jake.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do components, everything all the way down to like button.
Yeah.
Like so that gives me the ability to control my developers. All they have to do is know the component library and just go, oh, I need a button. I'm just going to use Jake's button.
Exactly.
I need this. I'm just going to use, because I can style it all for them and make it do what it needs to do and make it a dumb component. And they can just build these little pages, that don't really have hardly any HTML in them at all.
I've got a header component that's really just a small amount of code. And I can use this on every page that I'm doing. I can import this header and then have it be part of this entire thing. And if I need to make a change, I come and make this change one time, and it populates throughout the entire app, which is stuff that we've been asking for 100 years in FileMaker.
Right?
So this is how it works. For me, I think of it as I could go down as small as a button. I do have some components that have buttons, and that's simply because this is the only time that it's used, and I don't need to turn this into a component, but it certainly could be a component.
Yeah, that's a good answer for where do you draw the line, I think, Chris. Is if you're going to use it more than once, make it a component.
DRY.
And
gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. So
and like this one, like a list card, I'm using this component. It's a small thing. It creates a little rectangle that has some data coming into it. And I'm taking some records from FileMaker, and I'm mapping over that array of records, and I'm drawing one list card component per element of the array, per data set. So that's beautiful that I can just design one thing and use it for every single piece of every single record in the data set.
Yeah.
Another advantage of components. So this is the thing that I struggle with, and I learned this from Todd actually. When you're designing a page, with that ad expenses, when you're designing a page and you get to a thing that could be a component, you go, all right, I'm going to just go ahead and build it in here. But if I start to use like the same styling over, I could do two things. I could either export this styling and import it back in and use it all over, or I could turn this whole thing into a component. And I think VS Code gives me the option to extract component to a file.
Ooh,
Oh, I did not know about that.
that's sweet.
So there's two different things. I could say, I want you to just extract this component. So it'll do that. Give it a name, accept or add button. And what it actually did was it replaced all that code with a component, And then down at the bottom,
Dude.
it wrote,
You just blew my mind. That's
It moved
awesome.
it.
Seriously.
yeah, you like that?
Yeah. Is that an extension? It's got to be a plugin. What is that?
I don't know.
JSTS
Does this not happen
refactorings?
to you? I mean, it's just this little.
Well, maybe I've never. No, I definitely don't have that little orb. That's for sure.
I'll have to figure it out where it is. It might be. We're using TypeScript in this actually, so it might be something to do with TypeScript.
That's like
That would
game
make sense
changer.
with the JSTS refactorings at the bottom, and TypeScript relating would make sense.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So I'll explore that and see. But even without React, even without TypeScript, it'll do some similar kinds of things.
That's really cool.
Cool.
And so now I've got it in this file. And this is the thing. This is also something I struggle with is where do I put this damn component? Do I
Yeah.
put it in this file or do I put it in its own file? You know,
Yeah.
so again, if it's going to be used all over this app, I would put it in its own file. If it's going to be just used in this page, then putting it into a separate component below is really nice because then I can keep it isolated, right?
Yep.
I can kind of isolate it. So
For sure.
so that's fun. I'm really liking React, and I'm really liking using React. I think another part of React is being able to take one of these components like this form here and passing in information to it from the parent page. So let's say this parent page had a variable title equals, this is the title of the form. I could, this information is stored in this page, but I could come down here and I could add it to this main form as a property and say, one of the things that you should expect from wherever it's called is a title. So you have to, this component needs a title, and I'm actually using that title down below in part of the return. So I can go back to my search and say title equals title. So this is where the JSX, what is it? JSX. I can't remember what it stands for. Fully the full name.
I don't remember either.
Maybe it is just JSX.
I think the X was for XML.
The what?
If I remember it. I
Oh,
think
that
the
makes sense. Let's see. JSX. Yeah.
So again, what's nice about this is now I can change it up here and it will populate down into that component. And I could even have a second title and I could duplicate this damn thing.
It is XML, by the way.
It is XML, okay.
Yes.
I could duplicate this. I could actually put it somewhere else and say, all right, I want you to render the main form again, but instead of the title, the first title, I want you to use title 2. And so now, I'm using the same component over and over and over.
Yep.
With differences. I could, if this middle one needed the search button color to be red instead of blue, I could potentially pass the color red into this component, and then this one gets a blue component, so a blue color.
This is really cool, Jeremy. This is where I see there's a lot of circumstances, just like we do with web apps when we build them. There's a lot of times where I wish I had a lot more control over the componentry that my developers use in our projects. So, this is where it's like you could build that entire library and have one web viewer and then just call the right. I'm assuming this works similarly to how your typical environment does, where we're calling a function from FileMaker to render, and that's how you're determining the render, right? So what to put on the screen that's coming from FileMaker, or what function you're calling is coming from FileMaker. Is that how that works?
Yeah, actually, this is different in that I'm not letting the FileMaker or the perform JavaScript in a web viewer doesn't actually run in this case.
Oh, okay.
but it could for sure. It could certainly. I think I could do window dot load a component equals, give it a name,
Yep.
and then do that, and then I could say
Call that.
I could say component. I could say const component equals if name equals search.
Right.
So I could conditionally
Load the component, which would mean that you could have one web viewer and just throw it on any layout you want, and then the developer would just go, here's the one that I want on this page or in this instance, which gives a ton of control over to React, which is awesome.
Let's see if this works. Oh, you know why? Because I'm not.
I think you have to call it. Yeah.
So load component, load a component. That I think I'm trying to think how did I do this at Proof Guys? Because we used React in here. I gotta stick with my JSON and then do const object equals and then const name equals object. There we go. I don't need props. I could do name. We were doing this same thing where you're right. Actually, we were conditionally loading
it's
certain
awesome.
components based on where people were. It was the same exact web viewer in one space, but they would click different buttons and go
Different
to
things would
different
load.
pages.
Yeah,
Right.
that's killer.
So let's see if I do that search. So search comes in on the name. If search, let's see if that works. Boom.
There it is, dude. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there.
And then if I go and do something else, other. Let's see what this does. Not found. So that's the other component in this case. Well, let's just freaking extract quick. So there we go. Nope. So I could have another function that's not found. Boom, 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 and then do not found here. There, beautiful. All right.
Wow.
I'm doing something wrong here. Because I have the word function. Yeah. Okay. There we go. All right. So not found. Boom. And then I could design my not found to be whatever I want it to be. Okay. So this is all in the environment. And so my goal is to set this up to work inside of my environment as a general. And I think by the end of this, I want to have some sort of template for this. So what I'm going to do is go over to GitHub. I'm going to grab my template. So React JS dev, and I'll do JS dev React. There we go. That's more important. I need to move it over, but that's fine. So do that. So what I want to do is construct this into
Your
template.
Yeah.
Into what?
Into like your normal
Yes.
template. Okay.
Yeah. So, oops, I didn't want to do that. I want to do this, but I want to create a new window. Nope, that's not the right thing. I want to do this, new window. There we go. All right. So let's clone that. Put that where it goes. Now, it took me a while to get this down because the React framework has a a process that you could run from a blank Visual Studio Code called Create React App. I think it's npx create React App, and you give it a name and you do stuff. From what I hear and what I understand, it creates everything you need, tons of stuff, tons of junk. And from what I understand from most people is that it's pretty overkill at the moment. And obviously I want this to stay in my environment, so I can't use what React is given me. By the way, React was created by Facebook. I think Facebook is the website. Facebook is run using React. So that's how we get all the notifications and the fetching of data and all that stuff. So
is Instagram, I think.
Yeah.
All of Meta's properties, I think, are.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can actually install a Chrome extension to see which sites, when you go to a site, to see if it's got React, if it's using React. Anyway, okay, so I'm in here and I'm going to do a quick npm install. Okay. Then I'm going to install React and React DOM. Oh, npm install React DOM.
So
Okay,
this is just your JS and FM environment that you just
Yeah.
installed React into. Okay.
Exactly. So now it's part of my dependencies. And so now I can use React anywhere in here. I'm going to just copy this stuff. So this is where I get confused. It's a little bit of a, it's kind of interesting. First of all, I don't need anything in here except for one div with an ID of root. There we go. This index.js file is the entry point for the React app. So any React that runs is going to be put into here. I'm going to import that stuff. What's it telling me here? Okay. And then I'm going to copy this stuff right here and just, I don't need all of that, but so I'm setting this up to be, okay, so we've got the root here, we're creating a container, I don't need that. And I'm going to say, I want you just to render a component called my app. One thing I also found out is that I have to update some linting. So I'm going to do that. And I have to rename this. I don't know why I haven't explored that, but I couldn't get this to work this morning. And then I looked back at this one and it's working now. So
that's almost scarier than when it does work. Or
you
when it
don't know
doesn't
why?
work. It's
Okay, so I have a, I'm asking it to render a my app. So this is all that I write for my index.js. All of my other work comes in an I'll do my app.js and I'll create a component. So const my app equals, and we'll just say return. Come on. Oh, it doesn't. No. Return, I'll just do h1, my app. Okay, so, and then I'll export it. So export, I'm going to do default my app. So I'm exporting it out of this file. I need to make it available over here. So I need to import my app from, yep, that was right. Come on. Oh, I have this stupid extension that sorts my components. Okay, so
do you need the search as well?
I don't.
Yeah.
You'll give me an error. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, it probably will because it won't be able to find it. All right, so let's do a start.
Oh, quick question, Jeremy. Did you do npm install before you did install React?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So that installs my entire the entire
environment,
thing that works. Yeah, the
parcel and
development
everything.
environment.
Okay.
All right. So if I run this, there we go. So now the component that's over here is now being loaded into my file. And this is where I want to do everything. I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder called components. I think I want to put this at the top level. There we go. And then here I'm going to create a new file called. So I'm not very good at file naming conventions yet, but components are supposed to be uppercase.
Mhm.
So any component that you write is uppercase. Rather, normal functions we start with lowercase, but component functions we start with uppercase. So I always like, I think my file needs to match. It doesn't really matter, but just for the sake of it, a component. Let's see what a components in the components file is a bunch of files, a bunch of components, and I don't know, they're uppercase.
That's what we do. We do the uppercase on component
Okay.
files. I don't even know if that's like the right quote unquote way to do it, but makes it a little easier visually when you have a really large project to tell what's going on.
No. Button. See if my
This is is this that GitHub Copilot thing?
yeah.
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Do you guys know what that is? What he just did?
Mhm.
So I wrote a comment that asks what I want.
And it just
And-
does it. AI builds the code for him. Wild.
So I'm going to go over into my app, and I'm going to first do. I think I need React in here. Actually, I don't know if that's true, but import button, and it should find it. And then I can do import or return that and button. Okay, I'm gonna get a little error because this is JSX. I have to
Yeah.
put,
In a
there we
fragment.
go. So now I've got a button in a separate component, and well, this could be in its own component as well, but now I'm just placing components. And I'm doing whatever I need to do with it. So this is now, do I need React in this, right? That's gonna fail if I don't.
I don't.
I don't think I need it.
I don't think so because it's getting it
It's getting it from your app.js,
from
right?
your app.js, right? But it's not importing app.js.
I think I don't need it unless I start to use the state parts of.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So as
Yep.
soon as I want to keep track of something, then I do. So again, this is, text equals, this is the button to press, and then go into the component itself. And technically I'm bringing in what they call props. So props are coming in from the parent that's passing it in. And then all I need to do is say text equals props. So I'm extracting out the text part of it. And then I can just put the text in here inside of curly braces. No. You know what? I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do const text equals props dot text.
Wait a minute, did you just load your Safari inspector outside of the web viewer?
Very good question.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know how to turn it on to get it inside the web viewer. How did you get it as a pop-out?
It's the buttons up here. It's the
Okay. I don't think I realized that was one of the options for the frame.
Oh, I see what I did. Props. There we go. Okay. All right. So here's the props coming in as a parameter. I'm extracting it out. And so now it just goes in there. So then in my app, I could do a whole nother button and second one. So I'm using this over and over. Great. Okay. So as far as React is, as far as my development is concerned, I'm like on my way. I can just now focus on whatever I need to build. Whatever I need to build with React. Now this is pretty simple. I don't need React to do all this, but I kind of like it, and I kind of like it where React gets into where React is interesting is let's see if I can. I'm not sure I can do this on the fly. I'm going to go over to my previous one. So in this one, in this search, let's bring that up. Just be consistent. All right, npm start. I'll keep them side by side so we can kind of see, but oops, boom. Stop the server there. It's pulling from that. npm start. Okay, so localhost 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, I need to tell it. So where React shines, what I had mentioned before, is that it handles the state of the data at a particular time. So in my case, I have state, I'm managing state. I'm managing like what is the user selected by pushing into what they call state. In this case, the rings here or necklaces determines which images are shown. Those images in the JavaScript come from two different extra files, products and sections, I think. So here are the products, half mount. Oh, that's those. Okay. So here's just the SVGs of those. I just was playing with SVG, and each of these products has a type. So, the sections is the actual rings and necklaces. So it's just those. So what I'm doing is I'm storing. So this is state. This is state here. It's a hook called use state. It stores in the browser's memory what we ask it to store so that we can keep track of something. In this case, when they first come into this app, I'm by default loading this memory allocation with rings. I could, of course, do necklaces, and that changes what we see right away. But this is stored, and then I'm using the variable. So choice one is the variable, and it's got the rings value inside of it. And so what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, well, they've selected rings, or it's by default. Let's look at the products and filter the products where the product type is equal to what's stored in this state variable. And again, I think, I'm not fully sure that I needed state for this. I just know that I did it this way. I think I do because I want this to be filtered based on what they're selecting over here. And I want the values that they select here to be stored so that when I click on this, those products get pushed into the submission form, the form submission.
So I may have a misunderstanding about state, but I thought state was more important for when you wanted, say, what they had chosen when switching between categories, than being able to figure out what the current state is. I thought state was for restoring priors.
It could be, for sure. I think so, yeah. let's see. How
I guess I'm
many?
wondering, could you not just, get all the selected versions of that component and push that to FileMaker without using state? Did you need state in order to do that?
Yeah, I don't know, actually, to be honest. So
Okay.
I think both of those things are true. I think you could do it either way.
Okay.
why do we need state in React? React applications are built using components and they manage their state internally so that it works well for applications with a few components. So part of it is that you're able to pass that value into other components, right? And they're able to use it. So you're right. I think it's just both. I think it's both.
Yeah, it would be just a matter of programming style,
Got
but
it.
it's nice because you can have a bunch of dumb components that don't need to know anything about state at all and have like a master component that handle like a Grand Central
Right.
Station component that handles the state and passes it to those child components only when they need it.
Yep.
Which is great. But you're right. I mean, FileMaker sort of is the state, but
yeah, you're right. If I had this second section in a different component, that component wouldn't know what they selected.
right.
And I would need to pass that state into the separate component to show which ones to render.
Yeah.
Here, I'm just doing it all in one. Honestly, I wouldn't know. I mean, I would have the thing I would have to do, I think, Christos, is I'd have to say, all right, when I'm ready to show this stuff, I'm going to have to go figure out what they selected over here.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, where is that? This isn't actually an example. Where is that of?
The point I mostly wanted to make sure I was clear on was that state is optional for what you're doing with that final push to FileMaker. That strictly speaking.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, cool. That's mostly what I just want to make sure that I wasn't confused about.
Yeah, it's all about managing how components will render or show or not show. And as it changes, then it tells the component, hey, suddenly the state that prevented you from rendering has changed. So go ahead and render yourself. I think that's part of what it's doing. So this product SVGs component is actually a very good example. This is a div that I built that has an on-click function that it makes these. So I actually use the same div over for all 5 of these particular things. So they got the hover, they got everything is the same. If I come here and change this to be hover purple, or I say red 50, and I don't even know if I have to reload it. I probably have to reload it. Now I've got every one of them doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this component is used over and over and over. I'm passing in a bunch of properties. And in this case, it looks like I'm not sure that I needed the states or the values, but here I am, 1 of 2. Oh yeah. Okay. This is a good example. I do need it because what I'm telling these components is I'm saying if choice 2 includes, it's a little bit complicated, but I'm telling each of these components we're going to do single selection on these or multi on this.
Yeah.
And that all has to do with the particular state that I am in, or it has to do with the states that are chosen there. So
can you clarify that a bit?
No. So I'm passing in. So here's a variable active that says I want to turn on the multiple property of this check.
Okay.
Check
icon.
Yeah, where is multiple? multiple. 1 of 2. Oh, const active equals.
I think you're getting multiple. Are you getting multiple from that's coming in? Is that a Boolean?
Oh yeah, let's see. Okay, yeah, you're right. So let's go back here. Multiple on the first one is false. So these are false. I can't select them. I can't select multiple. And what I think I'm doing is, and it's been a while now actually, if I'm saying if active equals multiple, I don't know what that means. No,
It looks like you're checking multiple. Yeah, there you go.
If it's true, then choice 2, okay, ugh, I don't know what I'm doing. This isn't a good example, but I needed the values from the parent to enable something to happen here down in this. So I guess that's not good. I should have come up with a better one, but yeah. So anyway, back to what I know well. And this is, I think, Christos, this is good because I'm stumbling through the words, because I've actually never even considered bringing React into the conversation that I do. But it's actually because of the other file that I have, it's actually pretty dang easy to use it. And I think, given kind of my stance as an everyman, as a person who wants to solve the problems and then kind of make them more accessible to FileMaker developers, I think that this is a good way to start talking about React in the community by saying, all right, it's a simple setup. Here's what you can do. Let's build a bunch of components, and then let's put them into the app. And we've got a nice widget running. So
yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I don't know if you remember when I went through the course with you, one of my first questions was like, can we use React?
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I already have a template open that I'm gonna play around with this on, because this is very cool.
Wait, you've already created your template already?
What I want to do is actually clone my Tailwind. I have a Tailwind starter template that just has Tailwind in it, and I want to clone it and then put React into it, and then have a React starter for us, is what I'd like to do.
So this is what I love also about React is I could do this with JavaScript as well, but I have an array of text for buttons, and in one line, rather than repeating the button component over and over and over, I can just use the map thing, which we did in the training course. I can take the text array, I can map over it, and one element at a time, for each element, I can return a button where that text is the value.
Or if you wanted to take a list of records from FileMaker and render really nice looking cards for each record rather than a list view or a data table or something like that. And every card is fairly verbose in terms of like it's set up and it has a bunch of options and properties and stuff. Like you could do all that really simply and keep
an array of objects.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'll have something built tonight. This is cool.
Hey, that's my job. We did this in the training. I think with Orlando, we did buttons with data, and then with you, we did that. Remember, we did those sliders.
The sliders, yeah. We saw your. I think Orlando. I think we saw your like. Wasn't it the cities or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. All the buttons in there. It was really nice.
So this is what React can do, and obviously this doesn't feel overkill. And I think it actually might be good to start leading people into this idea of using React, because when you start needing to handle, like, which button did they click on, you could legitimately, track which one they clicked on, and you could render something down below based on what they clicked on.
It abstracts the UI. Like, so one of the neat things about React is that you can re-render UI elements on a screen without reloading the page. And that, I mean, there's several frame or libraries that do that, but what's really nice is that you could rely here on FileMaker as your true data layer and do all of your UI manipulation through React, through state.
Right.
So it's, you wouldn't have to, anytime someone clicks a button, for example, like go back to FileMaker and be like, hey, they clicked a button. What should I show? Instead you handle it in React. And that way you really have now truly abstracted your UI layer from your data layer almost altogether, which is pretty sweet.
What I'm trying to do here in these last few minutes is I want to add an on click to the buttons, and I want it to update which button they pressed. I want it to collect which button they pressed. And
Right.
then I'm going to put in H2 button. Okay. So when I load this, I get, need to add, let's do this. Let's do text and set button. Do that, and we'll do an on click equals set button. And I'll do this. Boom, boom, boom. Make an anonymous function, set button text. Okay. So I think that'll work. An error here. Button use state is not a function. Wait, what?
We have to run in a minute, but I actually had one more question for you
Yeah.
guys. Seems like the main complaint against React that I've seen is just that it's a large library. And in a FileMaker context, I feel like that's not the slow part. And so
Right.
it's not really much of a criticism. Just wondering if you agree with that take on it, or if there are other reasons that you think React would be, to choose a more lightweight library if you're going to be embedding it mostly in hybrid solutions that are FileMaker backed.
I don't think that I personally, and I'm not Jeremy, but I've done a lot of React development in the last few years, and my main purpose or my main reason against it wouldn't necessarily be because it's not lightweight enough. I guess one reason you might not use it is, and why a lot of people use Angular is because Angular is a more like, traditional model view controller, and React isn't. And so unless you're a pretty,
There we go.
unless you're a pretty traditional developer, I mean, and you have good code practices, and you keep, you have to do your own abstraction to MVC and React. It doesn't make you. And so that can end up really messy. If you have I had a developer who put 100% of everything into every single file, and I'm like, we should abstract, and he didn't understand why. And Angular is a safe bet because it forces you to, it is a true MVC model, and React isn't. And so React projects tend to get really messy unless you have, sorry, I've got it's quitting time and the kids are coming in. But React can get really messy if you're not if you're not following the rules.
Yeah. So cool. So now I have a template for React. Looks like Jake is already putting one together. So for him,
sort of. Yeah. I mean, I do have a couple questions for you. Maybe we could, I'm having an issue where the web viewer won't actually stretch, and it's not the calendar thing we were talking about earlier. It's another thing. I wanted to see if you had a minute to take a look at it. But
sure, if you want to hang out after this, that's great. But this is React, and I encourage, hey, Orlando, I encourage you to up your game and take a look at React.
Yeah, or Vue.
No,
Vue is also cool.
No,
you're not a Vue guy.
I wouldn't ever use Vue.
Why not?
Why not?
I don't know. Actually, it's just I think React is more popular. I don't know.
It is. It's just I guess it's preference. I don't use Vue either, but I certainly wouldn't not use it. If we had to. But
cool.
Awesome.
Thanks.
That was really
cool.
interesting,
Thanks,
man. Thank you for showing us that.
Yeah, that was fun to figure out. So Orlando, yes, I encourage you and charge you with looking at React from now on. Okay.
I'll give it a try. Thank you very much.
All right. Talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye-bye.